My buddy Stefan, I want to thank him. I'm getting so bored with the lack of this going anywhere that it's hard to go anywhere. He asked me about Isaiah. He's been getting some kind of these intuitive hits to go there and look. And he asked me about it because he knows what I'm doing here. And he knows that I'm a person that's hooked into what they're doing in a numbering pattern system because I have the time. Other people can do this as well if they had the time, if they took the time. There's people that can do this, but we're living in a different day and age. My name is Dan Paulson. Let's get started. All right, Stefan. First of all, this is just going to be not really getting into Isaiah yet. This is just an introduction. I want to set some things up. This is going to make it easier to understand how to work this stuff. First of all, you got to have the right brain type. Jeremiah, before you were in the womb, I knew you. What is this? There's brain types. There's a cycle of something going on. That's why predictions are made. People show up and things like that. There's something cycling. We're a part of that process. We have to know that and unhook from it. Okay, now, the brain type is this. I can remember being a child in school and being in a class and not having any interest in what there was going on and daydreaming, looking out the window, looking at the clouds billowing in the sky, the rain falling, I was not there. I was physically there, but mentally I was far away, watching the fall leaves fall out of the sky and hearing the crunching underneath. Again, you're someplace else. You're not there mentally. I got in trouble for that over and over again. That's a normal quality. That's a quality of the person that can work these through, because that's the very mental quality we need to utilize to work these through in our minds. I remember when it came to stories and that I really got into it, like in Sunday school, the Jesus stories and things like that, or, all the times like that where you're listening and you're really engaged in it, that as I engaged with the story, I did not ever feel like I was somebody standing back and watching a screen. I felt as I was in that story as if I was walking on the path. I could feel the sun beating down. I could hear the footsteps along the way. I could hear the people talking. You really engage with it at a different level. And that's important because you're doing things like walking along and Jesus suddenly commands a fig tree to die. And people go, oh, that's an amazing thing. The feet shows his strength. Yet you're in that story going, holy smokes, Jesus, you had the power to kill that thing when you could have had it heavily laden full of figs. You begin to see things and you begin to realize that's a metaphorical story. This is something that I'm producing that is not good for me, or it's not producing anything. This is a story for me to let things go and there's things we're bringing in life that are a waste of time, that are hurting us, or that aren't doing any good for us. We need to let them go. The stories begin to open up, but only if you engage with them in a way that you really see and feel them. All right, so as we go through each one of them, there's a point in time we have to understand how this is working and that we become the character. Our consciousness has to become Isaiah. We're going to create this theater of understanding in our mind how this works. Not looking outward, looking inward. We become the story. The story becomes us. And there's a mental hierarchy and layers to the story, layers and sequences of our life that are all in this, contained in the most marvelous, complex verbiage. But it's us. So how do we get into this story? We have to become Isaiah. We have to become the Israelites. This story was made on this template for a people. We have to put ourselves in their shoes. We have to walk in their shoes. We have to, in our imaginations, become those people. We have to become Isaiah, and the bad Israelites are parts of us. How does that work? What are they? How does that even work? It sounds crazy. Okay, this is how it works. I'm going to bounce around because this is incredibly common. It's hard to see, but once you understand it, you begin to see how prevalent it is. I'm going to start with Lao Tzu, Chinese, and then Buddha, two things that are not even Jewish. And then I'm going to show what this big number is. And then we're going to go all the bad Israelites. What is that big number of bad Israelites right there? I'll show you what that is. And then we're going to step from those two, from Lao Tzu and the Buddha, into Jewish material and pick up a different style of doing the exact same thing. All right, Lao Tzu. All right, I've got a blend of translations here. This is the Stefan Mitchell translation primarily, but I've got a Gia Fu Feng edition in here because it adds a little a step that we need. Chinese doesn't translate well, so it's good to have a number of copies. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Right here is telling us we have to play it out in the theater of your mind. That's the only way this works. I'm going to sit here and talk to you about it all day long, but until you sit down and play it out in your head, it's not the eternal Tao. It's the real Tao. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The Tao that can be told is the real Tao, of course. But the eternal, what does eternal mean? Eternal means when is it yours? Only the path is yours only when you take it. You have to turn inward. This is telling us it's a mental path. This exists analogously on the opposite side. If the blind lead the blind, they will both fall into the pit. People preaching and listening to preachers, you're not taking the path. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. We start out here from, what would you call that? Pure consciousness. Look at a baby. What do they remember? Nothing. Yeah, given that they're healthy and aren't colicky or something like that, you can influence their emotions by engaging with them in ways that they're pure consciousness. Not until they begin to develop. Yeah, the name that can be named is not the eternal name. This is infancy. The unnameable is the eternally real. Stay there, void. Naming is the origin of all particular things. That would be equivalent to first sin. That is us now being old enough and deciding things. Naming is a memory. Naming is the origin of all particular things. A memory is the origin of your life experience. Gia Fufeng says the named is the mother of 10,000 things. So make sure to know that. That's our bundle of memories right there. Caught in them, you see only their manifestations, a cyclical return. Free from them, you realize the mystery of life. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a bundle of memories. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. Keep that in mind because that is where we're going to go with those bad Israelites. I guarantee it. The named is the mother of 10,000 things. This is just in a different way, and it's not telling you good or bad. It's not in a story format. It's in a, hey, turn inward. This is a psychological thing. It's not hidden in anything that's going to somehow influence the carriers of the material like an Abrahamic religion will. Okay. So we see that the named is the mother of 10,000 things. What does the Buddha say? All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It's founded on our thoughts and it's made up of our thoughts. Okay, from that pure state form, what do we become? We become our bundle of memories. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him as the wheel follows the ox that draws the carriage, the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. This is us walking through life. We put ourselves into the story. We are the ox drawing the carriage through life. What follows us? Wheel follows. Pain, cyclical pain follows us. If we've had what is an evil thought. That is, naming is the origin of all particular things. It doesn't mean I'm thinking evil now or not. You can be thinking nice and bad stuff still happens. Why? It's something unresolved from a deeper layer. It's that stuff you don't want to look at. Okay, so what Buddha is saying here is that we are a product of our thinking processes. All right, let's go to Abrahamic material. And, plain language is possible. These are all memories that we have that influence, that are energy-based, that create a flow in life and continue to affect us in a derogatory manner. Even if it's something it's past, it's gone, you were young, I wish it was over with, I wish it hadn't happened, all that stuff right there. That's exactly what these memories are. All right, now we're in Genesis, and this is where I want to say this is where we have to have that mental, imaginative, that whole theater, that whole place created where this plays out and where we understand how it works. And right here, I will, without going too far back, I'm just going to say that Abram is our consciousness. Abram and Sarai, that's our first life. That's before we turn inward. That's before we become aware. When we get converted to Abraham and Sarah, that's when the calling happens. So this is pre-calling. We're not calling yet. The Lord came in a vision. You see, when the Lord is contacting us here, it's not in person. These are those thoughts. These are those things at night. But what are we understanding here? That I'm going to give you this land. And he brought him forth and said, now look toward heaven and tell the stars if you are able to number them. And he said, so shall your seed be. Those stars right there, that massive amounts of stars, your seed, that is your memories. And what is the land? I brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees to give you this land to inherit it. What is that land? Yeah, that's the land. When you're sitting there and your thoughts are somewhere far away, that's the land right there. What's in that land? What we're going to find here is now something happens. You've got a land, and it's filled with all the stars. Those are all your thoughts. But what we're going to start seeing here is a recurring motif I want to talk to you about. Right after the calling, what do we have to do? We are going to destroy Sodom. Sodom has to be destroyed. Right after a calling, there has to be a destruction. You're going to see that in all of the material. When we get into Isaiah, that's what you see, a calling, and it's time to go. The house of Israel has gone bad. It's time to go wipe them out. That's a recurring motif. Noah was called, and the world had to be destroyed. Sodom's going to have to be destroyed. Jericho's going to have to be destroyed. Right after a calling, all of those represent your early structure. I'm Jericho. My early self, my hurt self, my angry self is Jericho. It's Sodom. It's the world that needs to be destroyed. It's gone corrupt. It's going to be just this repeating cycle. When you read it, it'll blow your mind away. It's like, oh, this is over and over again. Here's another in Genesis. If we keep moving along, we're making transitions as we go. We're down into chapter 22 right here. We are Abraham. Sodom has happened and all of that. We're moving along. This is representing transitioning in life and having to turn inward and heal again and again. And down here in 22 verse 17, it says that in blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. Okay, so this time they're going to be good memories, because the gate of the enemies, that means the pathway to get through to heal yourself. The gate, like the narrow gate, entering the narrow gate. I hate to keep plugging these in because I know they get distracting, but right there it's also where? On verse 17. That's one of the numbers pure state. That's when the ark landed on the 17th day. Sarai's name is repeated 17 times. 17 is going to be a recurring motif. As we get into looking at Isaiah, we're going to find out that we got the 3-7 grid, and as we go through there, we're going to find that there are 3 chapters that have exactly 17 verses. It's going to be following a numbering pattern that you go, boy, there's some grid there that they're following that's going on in the background. It's always there. As I'm downloading it chapter by chapter and looking at it and making sure things are there, I'm realizing these numbers, there's 12. There's all of these numbers, most of them continue to come from that pile that came from Genesis, and how many verses there are in a chapter. It just, at some point you're like, boy, you know what? It's been there all the time. You just don't look at it. But there's a lot of them there. Anyway, you can see right there, that is this large amount of things that continually shows up is the large amount of, it's the bundle of memories that we've become, the mote in the eye, the ought against our brother, whatever it is that a Hindu would say you need to open up that eye. Enlightenment really comes down to this, that you've let go of the physical memories. You're no longer living through those memories. You're living through the higher self, and you've healed those so that they're no longer pulling you down. All right, so let's go take a look at Isaiah then and see what it says right there. That should hook us into it. Remember, we're Isaiah, and now we know what those bad Israelites are. Now, what I've got up here first is actually Genesis, not Isaiah, but I want to show something real quick. It's right down here where this 3 and this 7 are. You see down here in chapter 2, right where Stefan Langton, Archbishop of Canterbury, is the one that labeled these. You see the 7th day, 7th day, 7th day. 7th day is repeated 3 times, and he made sure to put that last one right here on verse 3. There's a 3-7 grid that begins right here. I'll just leave it at that. I look for that in the beginning of all Abrahamic material. They're following a specific pattern. So if we go look at Isaiah, this is what I find, and I've learned this is all throughout the material. So there's a 3 right there, and I know that somewhere in here should be a word that is repeated 7 times, or down here in 7, I will have a word in here that is repeated 3 times throughout the entire book of Isaiah. And that will be the acknowledgement. And where I found it was right here. I looked up ox. That shows 9 times, but when you take a careful look at that, you see that 2 of those are box. So you put a space in front, 7 right there. So ox is repeated exactly 7 times in the book of Isaiah. So there's our 3-7 nod. And I noticed something else that was kind of bizarre. You see how ox, the 7-3 is right there? Here, look at this. The last chapter of Isaiah 66, verse 3. Ox is there again. So they gave that 3-7 connection up front, and then it's like they closed it out in the end. I was like, well, that's interesting. Isaiah is huge, but it's gonna have patterns going on in here that just I look at it and go, yep, that's man-made Abrahamic right there. I see what it's doing. All right, so if we go to Isaiah, we're going to find a calling. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. I'm not going to look at those up and look for counts. This is just a standard calling right here. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, the Lord has spoken. This is always going to be happening. The Lord is reappearing. If you were, this is each one of us, but it does not have our life cycle on here. It only has our healing cycle in there, the calling. If we go to Abraham, we're going to find that's where this starts, right here at Abraham in chapter 17. But Abram all the way up to Abraham was not there. We've got Isaiah right here getting called. We don't have Isaiah from childhood up to this. That's missing. That's not here. This is strictly the healing template, also known as the monomyth. It's the most common one. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord has spoken. Heavens, earth, your higher self, your mind, your higher being, your earth, your life experience, the physical. How do you feel? How do your sensations? What's your life like as a result of what's in your earth? The Lord has spoken. The higher awareness is now reconnecting. We're reconnecting with our higher awareness. If we were to go look at the life myths before this, we would see, for example, at the end of Cain, chapter 4, he leaves the presence of the Lord. The Lord doesn't come back till the calling. That's connecting with the higher self. When the Lord sets up Abram and Sarai in Canaan in a famine and then soon disappears, that's early life. We're losing touch with our early self, that pure state, and we're living life. And now we want to go back and get it. Now I want to go back and get it. All right. The ox knoweth his owner, and his ass his master's crib, but Israel does not know, my people doth not consider. Now, it's really old material. It's hard to wrap our heads around it, but they've got patterns going on here. The ox knoweth his owner. This is an inside part. There's parts of us, my inner self knows who I am. I know what I'm supposed to do. And the ass is master's crib. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But Israel does not know. My people does not consider. Ox is a good thing. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel into anger, and they are gone away backward. Okay, this all represents that early part of us in great detail, though. If we went to Genesis and saw in chapter 6 where the beautiful daughters of men had become corrupted and giant offspring were there as a result and had to be destroyed, that's what this is right here. Much later iteration, this represents us, our early inner selves, that it's like, you know what, I got to resolve these things. They need to be destroyed or healed or something. You can do. There's a number of things you can do with them that it'll make the story sound different. I'm going to go defeat those. I'm going to go make friends with those. In either case, mentally, what you're doing is resolving the issue. Doesn't matter. You can do both. When you turn it outward, it sounds a lot different. There's two different options when you're going outward. When they become analogs and it's a spiritual, it minimizes down to what the possibilities are. Okay, so all of this represents our early inner self. Why should you be stricken anymore? The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. Yeah, what does that sound like? My head is spinning and my guts are in a turmoil. Sorry, but I can't resist. This is the exact same thing right here in the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the creation epic, 7 tablets of creation. What's happened here leading up to it is that creation just happened. The gods were born from that, and they became very raucous. This indicates our early self. Right here where it says that generation of gods would gather together for wild revels, that would be the same place in Genesis where the giants were created in the offspring from the sons of God, and that's what those are from, the gods, the generation of gods, or the offspring of God, something like that. So they proved bothersome for Tiamat. Tiamat here would be like the earth there, destroying the inner self. Their hullabaloo echoed. This commotion proved unsettling to Tiamat's inner being, and she was bothered by all of their activity within Anderuna. Anderuna is the meeting place of the gods. That's the mind. There was nothing Apsu could do to mitigate their carousing, but there was nothing Tiamat would say to quiet them down. No matter how troublesome their conduct became to her, regardless of how rowdy things were, she just put up with it. That's our early self going bad. Super early. Really old verbiage. Gah. I'm unsettled. From the sole of the foot even to the head, there is no soundness in it but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. Have they not closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment? I've been hurt, I've been battered, I've been abused, I've been told what a piece of shit I was. I've hurt people. I feel bad, I feel guilt, I feel so many things. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to live. I evolved as an animal trying to figure out how to live in this damn civilization. We're evolving. Your country is desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. Your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate, as overgrown by strangers. Yeah, these are the parts of us we don't want. I'm not in control of my life anymore. I don't like it. And the daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge and a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Okay, again, I don't want to get into the interpretation of it at this point. I just kind of want to set up how that's going to work, get the big pieces in, kind of pull it all together without... If I started off with Isaiah doing all that in the beginning, I don't think people would watch very long. So I just want to do this chunk first to show how this has to work in the mind and how there's a super commonality to this that is so hard to see. Now, at 66 chapters long, I've never gone through an entire book. It seems like the highest interest is putting up one of those and you get like 4 or 5 likes, and you put up the second one, you might get 1, and you put up the third and there's not even any views, and you're like, okay, yeah, that dropped dead. So it's hard to get through all of these because there's nobody to share it with. It's like it's at some point I'm thinking to myself, I'm just creating this for AI, for the future of humanity, because there's nothing else I can do but sit here in isolation and sit in my garden and drink wine or something, It gets a little bit rough, but at some point you see there's a structure there that is so deep that the average human mind is they're not going to see it. They're not going to detect the patterns. And we're out of touch with it. I'm finding it just by digging at it through the computer. If we had this memorized, well, that's why Langton put the chapters and verses in to align these back. These are in the story, and he knows it. He's putting the chapters and verses to help us find them in the story. It's like, oh, there's concepts in here. And if we look at the number, that aligns with concepts that were established in Genesis. 3, 7, pure state. Where does it go from there? 4, division, and on. And that's what I'm seeing here in Isaiah. But okay, the big thing is the commonality of it and how it has to play out up here. The Israelites, all those bad things, they're the naming is the origin of 10,000 things. The, stars in the sky, the sand grains on the beach. All of the things that we have become that make us become a frazzled nightmare of existence. We have to fast this to the world. We got to shut off. Our brains did not develop to have so much in it. Therefore, we're functioning at a myriad of things at superficial levels. If we had a very minimal amount of things to do, we would be functioning at incredibly high levels with those. We've got our brain power spread out over a wide spectrum of unnecessary energy. It has a certain amount. I guess the point there is we have to simplify it in order to get into this. And and you see what I'm doing with the story. That's why the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. You have to do that. You have to be able to sit down and go, okay, now I see. Oh, right. Yeah, I am Isaiah. My bad Israelites are, oh yeah, this abuse, this experience, that thing I couldn't shake, this thing those are all the bad Israelites that are occupying the land that I want back. What do we do when we get to the Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna and Krishna in the chariot going up and surveying the battlefield. He's got to go back and get his land back from his family that won't give it up. He doesn't want to go battle with them. We see these recurring motifs. Jason in the Greek myth is the rightful ruler of the kingdom, but early on in his childhood he was separated out and King Pelias overtook it. Early self overtakes it. He turns inward, faces himself, and it's time to go get his land back now. You're defeating early self to get your land back or something back. It should at some point go, I see that a lot. That's what Joseph Campbell saw. Anytime somebody's going back and getting back something, go get your vineyard. Jesus is talking. It's hard to get it back. People don't want to give it up. They're all going to be represented. Your mind space. That's it right there. We have to play it out. So that's important to know, is just to really be ready to ignore every teacher that told you, stop your imagining. Sit and pay attention. Yeah, you're here to imagine. All right. I'll get started then on the interpretation. Stefan, thanks. Love you, brother. See everyone later.